Welcome to Cheat Sheet Tales, where secrets slip, lies unravel, and the truth always has a twist. Real stories, raw confessions, shocking betrayals. Drop a comment if you've ever caught a red flag too late. Now, let's get into today's tale. It was late at night during a family trip with my parents and sister. Suddenly, my sister whispered, "Don't say anything, he's coming." I turned around, and there he was, my ex, holding my private journal, reading aloud to a crowd in the lobby. It had been a long day, the kind where you're tired from driving through winding mountain roads, but still trying to hold on to that sliver of peace you know is just around the corner. My parents, Miriam and Victor, decided that this family trip would be a way for us, all to reconnect. They knew I'd been struggling since the divorce, and maybe, just maybe, this could help heal some old wounds. I wasn't so sure. The last thing I wanted was to be stuck in a remote hotel with my parents for a weekend, but I couldn't bring myself to say no. Maya, my younger sister, had insisted it was exactly what I needed. She was excited, talking nonstop about everything she planned to do, while I just nodded and tried to ignore the tightness in my chest. It wasn't that I didn't love my family, it's just that there were parts of my life I didn't want to talk about. Parts that still hurt too much, and that included Ethan, my ex-husband. We'd been married for 3 years. Looking back, it wasn't a relationship that started with fireworks. It was comfortable at first, steady, predictable, but comfort turned into suffocation. Ethan had always been the one with dreams bigger than our little life together. I wanted to support him, but I didn't realize that support meant losing myself in the process. Then there was the affair, the betrayal. It broke me, not just because of what he did, but because of how he handled it. He didn't just leave me. He made it my fault. The emotional abuse was subtle, just little things at first. Over time it grew, and so did my doubts. Was I the problem? Was I too much? Not enough? After everything ended, I moved back in with my parents. It was a setback, sure, but I had no choice. I was broken, and being with them gave me some semblance of stability. Maya, who was 10 years younger, didn't quite get it. She was always the more outgoing one, the one who kept things light, while I wore the weight of my past like a cloak I couldn't shed. But this trip, this was supposed to help. I hoped that it would help me start over, get some clarity, and maybe even find a way to heal. So as the days passed, I tried to let go of the past, tried to breathe without the burden of everything that had happened. The mountains were beautiful, the air was crisp, and for a fleeting moment, I thought things were starting to settle. It was on the third night when everything changed. I was sitting in the hotel lobby nursing a cup of tea when Maya came up to me. She looked off. Her face was pale, her eyes wide, and she had this urgency about her that made my stomach drop. "Don't say anything," she whispered quickly. "He's coming." At first, I didn't register what she meant. My mind raced, trying to make sense of the words, but it took me a second to realize who she was talking about. My heart skipped. I turned slowly, and there he was. Ethan. He was standing at the edge of the lobby, his eyes scanning the room, his posture stiff but oddly confident. And then I saw it. In his hand was something familiar, my journal, my private, unfiltered thoughts, the one place I had poured all my confusion, pain, and anger. The one thing I never expected anyone, let alone him, to find. He wasn't looking at me, but I could tell that he knew exactly what he was doing. He was standing there, holding my journal, flipping through the pages as if he owned them. I wanted to scream, to run up and snatch it away, but my feet wouldn't move. I heard him chuckle under his breath. It made my skin crawl. He began to read aloud. My words, my feelings, the things I had written in my darkest moments, things I had never intended for anyone to see, let alone be mocked for. She thought that maybe, just maybe, if she kept pushing through, she could make him love her again. He read, his voice dripping with sarcasm, but it was too late. He was already gone. All she had left was this journal, her broken heart, and her hopes that maybe, somewhere, somehow she'd find peace. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. my world, was collapsing right in front of me, and I was powerless to stop it. The lobby, which had been relatively quiet moments before, was now full of people, hotel guests, staff, who were all listening to him. Some were laughing quietly. Others were just watching, clearly entertained by the spectacle he was creating. Some people just don't get it, he continued, his eyes scanning the next page. She thought that if she could just, I don't know, fix everything, maybe she'd feel whole again. But what she didn't realize is that I was the one who needed to move on. She was too busy drowning in her sadness to see that. I wanted to shrink into nothingness, to disappear. My heart felt like it was being torn into pieces. Each word, each sentence was like a knife in my chest. I caught Maya's eye for a brief second. She looked horrified, but her gaze quickly shifted down to the floor as if she was avoiding the situation altogether. I wanted to say something to her, to ask her why she wasn't stopping him, but my voice failed. Me. The laughter grew louder. Now some people were openly chuckling, others were exchanging glances. The humiliation of it all was suffocating. And then, he turned another page. Still reading, still tearing me apart. The seconds felt like hours. I stood frozen in place, unsure of what to do. My mind screamed at me to do something, anything. But my body was paralyzed, and then out of nowhere, a voice broke through the chaos. It was mine. Enough. It was a whisper at first. But as soon as I said it, something inside me snapped. I stepped forward, my legs shaking, but with every step, I felt my resolve harden. I had spent so long being afraid, so long holding on to. The belief that I was somehow less than him, less than what I deserved, but not anymore. I reached Ethan, and I don't know how, but I managed to take a deep breath and speak through the tremor in my voice. Enough, I said again, louder this time. You've humiliated me enough. His face shifted from smug confidence to something I couldn't quite place. Surprise, maybe. Regret. Probably not. He looked down at the journal in his hand, and then, slowly, almost reluctantly, handed it to me. But I didn't take it. You don't get to do this anymore, I said, my voice steady now. You don't get to use my pain to make yourself feel better. The crowd around us had gone silent. All those eyes were on us, waiting for what would happen next. But I wasn't afraid anymore. Not of him, not of the judgment. Not of any of it. I turned to face the group of people who had been watching, all eyes still on me. And as for all of you, I said, my heart pounding, this is my life. Not some joke for your entertainment. If you have any decency, you'll walk away now. Some shifted uncomfortably. A few even looked apologetic. But I didn't care. I had said my piece. I turned and walked away, hearing nothing but the sound of my own footsteps echoing in the hotel lobby. I didn't look back, not once. As I walked away, I could feel the tension in the air, thick and palpable. It clung to me like the oppressive humidity before a storm. I didn't look back. But I could sense Ethan standing there, probably with that same look of arrogance he used to wear so often. I could hear the rustle of his feet behind me for a moment, before they faded into the background noise of the hotel. He wasn't following me, but the damage had already been done. I didn't make it very far before I felt Maya's hand on my arm. She was there, catching up to me, her expression one of confusion and concern. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice shaky. She seemed as if she didn't quite know what to say. I turned to her, shaking my head slightly. "No, Maya, I'm not okay, but I will be. I can't believe he did that." My voice cracked at the end, betraying the calm front I'd been trying to maintain. I don't even know what to say," she admitted, looking lost. "Why would he do something like that?" I sighed heavily, my chest feeling tight again. "Because he can. Because he always thought he had the right to tear me apart and make himself feel superior. He always had that control. But not anymore. I'm done with him." We stopped in the hallway just outside our rooms, and I let my shoulders slump. It felt like a physical release of some of the weight I'd been carrying for so long. But even as I stood there, a new weight settled, in one I hadn't anticipated, the weight of everything being exposed to strangers. To the people in that lobby who had no right to know any of it. "Do you think they'll say something?" Maya asked, her voice quieter now. I shook my head. "I don't care if they do. This is my life, Maya, not some spectacle for people to watch and laugh at." I paused, rubbing my temples. "It's not the first time Ethan has humiliated me, but it's the last. Maya looked down at her feet, her fingers playing with the strap of her bag nervously. She had been a quiet witness to so much of my pain over the years, but she had never really understood it, not in the way I needed her to. She didn't know what it was like to watch someone you loved choose another person over you, then twist the knife every chance they got. But she was here now, and I appreciated that, even if we were both a little lost on how to move forward. I wanted to be angry with her. After all, she hadn't stopped him, hadn't even tried to intervene. But something about the situation made me realize she was as much a victim in all this as I was. She had her own ways of coping with things that didn't always align with mine. But at that moment, I didn't have the energy to hold it against her. "I'm sorry," she murmured after a beat, her voice barely above a whisper. I looked at her, seeing her soft eyes filled with regret inside. "You don't have to apologize. I know you didn't know what to do either." I rubbed my eyes and let out a long breath. "It's just everything. I thought I was past this. I thought I was healing. But seeing him like that, holding my journal, reading it like it was some joke, it felt like I was back at square one. Like all the progress I've made just disappeared." Maya nodded slowly, then took a step closer, putting a hand on my shoulder. "You're not back at square one, though. You stood up for yourself. You didn't let him keep tearing you down." I gave a half-hearted smile, feeling a twinge of gratitude that she was trying to understand. "Yeah, but it doesn't feel like it. Right now. It feels like I've lost something. Something I can't get back. My privacy. My peace." For a moment, we just stood there in the quiet hallway, both of us trying to process what had just happened. The weight of the night, the humiliation, the anger, it was all swirling in the pit of my stomach. Do you think he'll try to contact you again?" Maya asked after a while. I shook my head. "I don't care. I'm done, Maya. I don't need him in my life anymore." But even as I said it, a part of me knew that wasn't entirely true. Part of me still feared that he would come crawling back at some point, trying to justify his actions, trying to twist everything into something that was my fault. I was still haunted by that. I couldn't escape the fear of him continuing to invade my life, even from a distance. The thought made my stomach churn. But there was something else too. Something I couldn't quite name. It was anger, yes, but it was also something darker. Something like revenge. A deep and uncomfortable desire to make him feel the way he made me feel for so long. I wasn't proud of that feeling, but it was there, and I wasn't sure how to bury it. "Hey," Maya said softly, as though sensing my inner turmoil. "I think we should just go up to the room, get some rest. Tomorrow's a new day." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. I wanted to say something more, something meaningful, but my mind was still foggy from everything that had happened. All I could think about was the journal, my words, my feelings, my secrets, ripped apart by the one person who had once sworn to protect them. We made our way back to the room in silence. As we reached the door, I paused for a moment, looking at Maya. "Thanks," I said quietly, not knowing how else to express what I felt. "For being here." She gave me a small, tentative smile. Of course. I opened the door and we stepped inside. The room was dark, but I felt no comfort in the dimness. My mind was too restless, too unsettled. I went straight to the bed and sat down, staring blankly at the wall in front of me. I wasn't sure if I was angry at Ethan anymore, or at myself, for letting him get under my skin again. But whatever it was all-consuming. I didn't sleep much that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him, his face smug and indifferent as he read my journal aloud. The laughter of the crowd echoed in my mind, a cruel reminder that my vulnerability had been put on display for anyone to see. At some point, I must have drifted off, because the next thing I knew, it was morning. The soft light filtering through the curtains was a reminder that the world kept turning, even when it felt like everything inside me had come to a halt. Maya had already gone downstairs when I woke up. I could hear the faint sound of breakfast being set up in the lobby, the clatter of dishes, the hum of hotel staff going about their work. It was the same ordinary morning routine. And yet, for me, everything had changed. I wanted to leave. I wanted to pack up, get in the car, and drive back to the safety of my parents' house, where everything felt more controlled, more manageable. But I also knew that if I did that, I would be running away from everything that had just happened. I couldn't let Ethan win like that. I couldn't let him have this power over me anymore. So I took a deep breath, stood up, and forced myself to walk toward the door. There was no running away. There was no going back. And somehow, in the quiet of the morning, I realized that I was ready to face whatever came next. I found Maya sitting alone at a table near the far end of the breakfast lounge. She was picking at a plate of toast and eggs, not really eating, just moving the food around with her fork like she was pretending to be okay. She looked up when she saw me and offered a small, tired smile. "Morning," she said, though neither of us looked like we'd gotten any sleep. "Morning," I replied, sliding into the seat across from her. I didn't bother with food. My stomach was still in knots. For a few minutes, we didn't speak. The soft clinking of silverware around us filled the silence. The other guests, many of whom had probably witnessed last night's performance, were mostly avoiding eye contact. Some seemed awkwardly aware of me. Others were engrossed in their conversations, pretending not to recognize me as the woman who had her emotional underwear aired out like a public exhibit. "I don't think he stayed the night here," Maya finally said, keeping her voice low. "I went down early to check. He's not on the registry." I nodded. "He probably booked under another name. Wouldn't surprise me." She hesitated. "Do you think he stole it from your bag?" "I know he did." I leaned back in the chair, arms folded. "I kept it zipped in my suitcase, in the inside pocket. The only people who have been near it are you and..." I trailed off, not wanting to say it. "And him," Maya said quietly. "But how would he have gotten into your room?" I looked at her, really looked, and something in her expression changed. "Maya," I said carefully, trying to keep my voice steady, "did you tell him I was here?" Her eyes widened slightly. She shook her head quickly. No, I swear I didn't." But she looked away, and I felt a hollow chill crawl up my spine. "I didn't tell him," she repeated. But now it sounded defensive, not sure. "But I might have posted a photo on my story last night, just before dinner. You were in the background. I tagged the location, just the resort." I closed my eyes. "Oh God," she whispered, suddenly realizing. "You think he saw it?" "I don't think so. I know. I tried to keep my anger in check, but my jaw was tight. He's still watching. Still trying to find ways to stay connected, even if it means hurting me." Maya looked like she wanted to disappear into the seat. "I didn't think. I just thought it was a fun photo. I didn't think he'd be checking my stories. Why would he even... Because... He's obsessed with control," I said, voice sharper than I meant. "Because he doesn't need a reason, Maya. People like him don't just let go. They wait. For opportunities. For access." She looked stunned. "I'm so sorry. I wanted to be angry with her, but I couldn't bring myself to fully blame her. She hadn't known. Not really. She didn't understand what it was like to survive someone. Like Ethan. She hadn't lived in that suffocating space between manipulation and dependence. She didn't know how good he was at twisting things, how he could turn your worst day into ammunition with a smile on his face. Still, the consequences were real. My journal, those pages were the most honest things I had. I had written in them late at night, when the memories were too sharp to sleep through, when therapy didn't feel like enough. I wrote in them to process the things I couldn't say out loud, and now strangers knew parts of me they should never have heard. I exhaled, hard, pressing my palms to the table. He must have gone to the front desk. Said he forgot something in the room. Maybe he knew which room I was in. Maybe he sweet-talked the desk clerk. I don't know. I don't even care anymore. I could talk to the front desk, Maya offered. See who was working last night. Maybe file a complaint? Would it matter? I asked flatly. What would they do? Apologize? Offer a free breakfast? It won't undo what he did. She flinched. I know. I want to help. I looked at her again, softer now. She looked genuinely crushed. I know you do, I said. It's just, this isn't something you can fix. I need to figure out what to do next. Maya nodded slowly, and we fell silent again. Around us, breakfast carried on. Cups clinked. People murmured about their plans for the day, but all I could hear was the echo of Ethan's voice in my head, reading my words like they were a joke. The last time I saw him was 2 years ago. We were sitting in a cramped office, downtown, finalizing the divorce. He wore his usual smirk. I had cried on the way there, but kept a straight face in front of him. I didn't want him to see how much it still hurt. I thought that was the end, but clearly he didn't. After breakfast, I went for a walk alone. I didn't tell Maya where I was going. I just needed air, distance, time to think. The mountain resort sat at the edge of a large forest preserve. There was a path that wound through the trees, gravel crunching softly beneath my boots as I walked. The cool mountain air hit my skin, and for a moment I let myself imagine what peace would feel like. Real peace, not the kind that could be shattered by an Instagram story or a smirk from the past. I sat down on a wooden bench by a small clearing. The trees opened up just enough to see the mountain range beyond. It was quiet here. No voices, no laughter, just wind and birds. I pulled the journal from my bag. The cover was creased now, pages bent from being thumbed through too many times. By the wrong hands. I opened it. Read the lines he'd mocked the night before. They didn't feel like my words anymore. They felt violated. But they were mine. Still, as I flipped through more pages, I came across a short paragraph I didn't even remember writing. It had been dated about a year ago. One day I'll stop writing about him. Not because I'm done healing, but because I've moved on. That's how I'll know I'm really free. The words hit me hard. I hadn't moved on. Not really. Not if he could still pull the ground from beneath me like he had last night. Not if I was still writing about him. Still dreaming about what I'd say if I saw him again. Still rehearsing all the things I never had the courage to scream in his face when he left. But now I had said it, and he had heard me. He had looked into my eyes and seen someone who wasn't afraid anymore. I snapped the journal shut and stood. I wasn't ready to stop writing, but maybe, finally, I was ready to start writing about something else. Back at the hotel, I found Maya on the balcony of our room. She was scrolling through her phone, but when she saw me, she said it. Aside, I found something, she said quickly, standing. A review. What kind of review? Of him, she said. On a business site, his new real estate office. There are these reviews about him being unprofessional, inappropriate with female clients, talking down to women. Someone even wrote about a psychological mind game he played during a showing. My heart sank. I thought it was just me. Whispered, it wasn't. Maya said it never was. I sat down slowly beside her, feeling a strange mix of dread and relief wash over me. He hadn't changed. He was still hurting people, still weaponizing charm and confidence to get what he wanted, still pretending to be someone he wasn't. Maya looked at me. You could post something, you know. You could warn people. I looked out at the trees, at the fading light between the peaks. The idea was tempting, but it wasn't the revenge I wanted. Not anymore. What I wanted was something harder to define. Something deeper. What I wanted was peace. But maybe, before I could find that, I had one more thing I needed to do. I didn't sleep again that night. Not out of fear or anxiety, but because my mind wouldn't stop spinning. All the pieces were finally falling into place. Ethan hadn't just been a mistake in my past. He was still out there, hurting people in new ways, different ways. And now, for the first time, I had the opportunity to do something about it. Not through revenge, in the way he would have done it, but through truth. The kind of revenge that doesn't scream, doesn't hit, doesn't destroy, but exposes. Over the years, I'd stayed silent. I'd let him twist the narrative in our social circles. I was the one who lost it. The one who couldn't keep her marriage together, while he got to move on, laughing with friends, climbing in his real estate career, his image carefully crafted to seem like the perfect, polished, charming guy next door. But I had the receipts. Now. And I had a voice. I started by writing a long, detailed, and honest review on the same site Maya had found. I wasn't cruel. I didn't need to lie or embellish. I simply told the truth. What he had done during our marriage, how he used manipulation and emotional abuse to control me, how he weaponized my vulnerability, and how he recently broke into my hotel room and read my private journal aloud, in public. I didn't use flowery language. I didn't insult him. I just told the story. The raw truth, written plainly, hits harder than any insult ever could. Then I created a dedicated post on a local business accountability forum. It wasn't about shaming. It was about warning. I explained how emotional predators often wear masks, how women in his life had been left to pick up the pieces while he charmed his way into new circles. I linked screenshots from his business website, pictures of his staff, his branding, his motto about trust and transparency, and simply asked, "Do these values match what you've read?" The post went viral in a matter of hours. Others started to come forward, one by one. A woman who had once worked under him and quit after constant belittling. A client who was pressured into signing a lease after he refused to take no for an I answer. A former girlfriend who had been told she was too sensitive every time she cried during an argument. Just like that, the pristine image Ethan had so carefully crafted began to crack. I didn't revel in it. It wasn't about gloating, but I watched quietly from the sidelines as the house of cards he built started to tumble. He made one statement on his business's social media, denying the allegations and calling them disgruntled exes, but that only made things worse. People hate a non-apology. The more he tried to control the narrative, the faster it slipped from his grasp. A week later, his business website went dark. 2 weeks after that, the brokerage he worked under removed his profile. A month later, I received a quiet message from a mutual acquaintance. He's moved to another city, trying to start fresh. Fine by me. But it wasn't just about him anymore. This whole experience lit something in me. I realized how many women had gone through what I did, silently, in shame, thinking they were alone. So I started writing. For real this time, not in a hidden journal, under my clothes in a suitcase, not with trembling hands, in the middle of the night, but with clarity, with purpose. I pitched an article to a mid-sized women's magazine titled, "When They Weaponize Your Words, What Happened?" When my ex read my private journal in a hotel lobby, they published it. It took off. I was invited onto a podcast. Then another. A therapist reached out and asked if I'd consider contributing to her upcoming book on emotional recovery after narcissistic abuse. Suddenly, I wasn't just healing. I was helping others heal. Maya stood by me through all of it. She never forgave herself for posting that story with the hotel tag, but in a way, I told her it was the spark that lit the match. Without it, Ethan might have continued hurting others unchecked. "You didn't know," I told her. "But now you do, and that's what matters." Our relationship became closer than ever. She no longer tiptoed around my trauma. She leaned in. She listened. She asked real questions. It was the kind of bond we hadn't had since childhood, and I cherished it. One day, months after it all blew over, Maya and I were walking through a small, open-air market downtown. We were both sipping coffee and browsing. Local art booths. When we saw him, Ethan. He was on the other side of the crowd, walking quickly, his head low. He looked thinner, haggard, tired. His hair was longer, unkempt. He glanced up once and made eye contact with me. For a split second, I saw a flash of the old smugness, the man who used to believe he was untouchable, but it vanished as quickly as it came. He turned and walked the other way. He didn't say a word. Neither did I. I didn't need to. He had already heard everything. I had to say. And now, finally, so has everyone else. That was enough. Was enough.